Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dominique Wong Weekend Show, where we have grassroots conversations about current affairs. I hope everyone watching today is happy and safe at home. Today, we bring a very special guest. She is Ngo Qyira Yusri, co-founder of Undi18, a student-led organization in 2016 that has grown into a national civil rights organization today. She was awarded Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia 2021 for social impact for 3 years of advocacy work, including amending or encouraging the government to amend Article 119, subsection 1, subsection A of the Federal Constitution to lower the voting age from 21 to 18, as well as allowing automatic voter registration. In a stroke of a pen, 7.8 million voters were potentially allowed to vote in the next coming general elections. To start off, would you like to introduce yourself and how do you become involved in Undi18, Qyira?
Sure. Thanks for having me on today. So I came from very normal background. My dad was an engineer and my mom was a government school teacher. So my family was not involved in politics at all. I was not involved in politics at all until I was in my final year of university. And even then, I was not involved in politics because I was studying abroad in the US. And that's when we started Undi18. So that was when, because in the US at that time was the US presidential elections. So it was Donald Trump versus versus Hillary Clinton at that point in time. Yeah, and of course, Donald Trump won. But the point is, it was a very exciting time to be in the US. So many of the Malaysians were also quite active. We were talking about politics, talking about issues, and then we just figured that how come we don't have a similar sort of desire to be politically active here in Malaysia. And while of course one of the reasons is AUKU, another reason is that young people are not stakeholders in our democracy. So that's how the idea of Undi18 started. We launched a petition back in 2017. We started in 2016. We worked on a petition in 2017, and then when we just came out from Malaysia, we just kept pushing for it until it was passed in Parliament.
Amazing. I can see that previously you were studying in America, United States of America. Mm-hmm. Is that where you met Tharma as well, the other co-founder of Undi18?
Yeah, so both of us were students in the US. So we were both student leaders and part of the Malaysian Students Global Alliance, and that's how we got involved in advocacy.
Advocacy work, yes, that's right. Do you encounter a lot of pushback when you first organized this in 2016? How do you overcome the challenges? Could it be from the Malaysian government? How do you grow since then until today, Undi18 today?
Yeah, I don't think we had much of a pushback beginning because we were students abroad. So we weren't really I don't think we were really making a lot of noise at that time. So I guess that we didn't really get many negative pushback, to be honest. And also I think when we came back to Malaysia, our campaign started from the people first. So we spent more time convincing people, students, teachers, parents about Undi18 before approaching politicians, which means that by the time we went to the politicians, we could stand on the position whereby we have a lot of people actually behind us supporting this campaign. Hence, it would make sense for the politicians to support it. And I think one of the question that people always asked about Undi18 is whether young people are ready or not. For me, when people ask that kind of question, it's very easy, right? Because we don't have a specific set of indicators on how do we measure whether young people are capable or not, whether young people are smart enough or not. In general, we do not measure someone's intelligence before they vote. That would be very ableist, that would be very elitist, and very classist as well, right? So, along that line, we argued that, as long as you have lived for 18 years in Malaysia, you've been alive for 18 years in Malaysia, you have the right to vote because at 18 years old, you are seen as an adult in every form of the manner, right? In the eyes of the law, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to going to war, when it comes to owning property, signing contracts. At the age of 18-year-old, you do not need a parent or a guardian to do this for you. So we figured that that's one of the strongest sort of like message that we send to people. Yeah.
Yep. I think the strongest argument is the legal age of majority is 18. Because when you talk about culture, it becomes very subjective. Because I think in the past, when people were all farmers, they get married after they had puberty so that they could go out and form a family and they work on a farm. So everything started earlier then. But nowadays, there's division of labor. So people go to college and then they graduate and then they can vote. So I think adulthood has been postponed a little bit. I mean, in the 19th century, but then again, you have social media now that makes everyone so informative. So that has come down again. So people, again, they become more mature earlier. So I think this was Tan Sri Rais Yatim who had something to say against Undi18. He said, do we want our students fresh out of GCSE or SPM to be voting before attending college? Because when I was in high school, most of my friends were not interested in politics. It would distract them from studying and excelling in their grades for college entrance exams.
I think, voting, I mean, of course, as someone who works in politics and political advocacy, I always tell people voting is extremely important. But whether we should, I think it depends on also, when someone is reluctant to vote, the question isn't like, how do we sort of like convince them and how do we tell them it's important? The question should be, what kind of barriers do they face when it comes to voting? Is it difficult to vote? Is it easy to make a decision? Are information as easily accessible for people to make the right decision, the wrong decision, whatever decision they may want to make? I think that's the question. And I think for that to happen, we need to have a society that encourages political discussions and critical conversations, when it comes to topics of race or religion, topics of sexuality, topics of the economy, laws and things like that. I think these are often not necessarily topics that young people are encouraged to discuss. And when you're not, you don't talk about it a lot, you sort of like, you're not familiar with it, and when you're not familiar, people can get very insecure about topics, hence why they may hesitate to be politically active or cast a vote. So I think it's important to look at like institutions like universities and schools, before we talk about like home, because it's as institutions we can make a conscious change towards allowing schools to be, or universities to be, a safer place for kids to speak up. And when kids are used to questioning things, when they're used to asking questions, speaking up, they're used to thinking beyond the box, they're used to like even challenging the norms around them, it's not very difficult to introduce or norm them into the idea that voting is actually just another normal component of democracy. In fact, it is one of the easiest ways to participate in a democracy. And I think that kind of stuff, you need like you need a culture change, you need a culture shift that hopefully with the legislation change of Undi18 can sort of like spark and push for people to take it more seriously.
Yes, I think Undi18 has been the most successful. Something I appreciate very much, giving power to young people, because we didn't have a platform before, to have a platform to showcase or to at least let the politicians hear us. I think Undi18 filled such a very big gap. And even though we say that, we can't put 21 or put 18 or put 17, there's a lot of precedent around the world that 18 is a legal age of majority now, and that 18 people have access to information online, they mature, they should be involved in the discussion. So I think based on the more positives and negatives, I think it's a very good thing that we have Undi18. So for example, about the same opposition, right? What were the attitudes of Barisan Nasional at that time? Because I think I remember you said April 2017, you submitted a memorandum to Najib Razak, Prime Minister, and also to include it in the Transformasi, TN50, the vision of TN50 canvassed. Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's right. So we did try to submit a proposal to TN50 at the time, and I think we did have someone from Barisan Nasional supporting it. In fact, he even wrote a supporting letter for it. So Senator at that time, then Senator Azwan Bro, who was also Deputy Youth Chief of UMNO, he actually wrote a supporting letter for Undi18, and we submitted it along with our proposal for lowering the voting age. But of course, it didn't go through, and I don't know what's the exact reason, because it does go through like ministerial bureaucracy and all that. And I guess I think when the final list of the N50 aspirations came out, it was mostly on various other policy issues, but not none of them were about democracy or politics. So that could be one of the reasons. But I think it's time to question that at that point in time, not many of the BN representatives were supportive, and I think the fact that I guess it did not get on TN50 showed that they didn't believe that even 30 years from now, something like UNDI18 is relevant, right? But I think the fact that we managed to change their minds, just a year later, 2 years later, when YB Said Sadiq brought it to Parliament, he also managed to push for. He managed to lobby all the other party leaders and also party members, even on the opposition side as well, to be supportive.
Yes. Yep. Do you attribute any of UNDI18's success to timing as well? The coincidental timing of Pakatan Harapan coming to power. Do you think it will be much later you get this constitutional amendment if Barisan Nasional?
Oh, definitely. I don't think it would have been possible if Pakatan Harapan didn't come into power. Absolutely not. I don't think. First of all, it was not on the Barisan Nasional's manifesto, so I doubt it was ever their priority or their concern. But the good thing was that the idea of lobbying it earlier is that it got the attention loud enough. It was loud enough to be on the Pakatan Harapan manifesto, and then when they won, you could use it as leverage or as pressure to convince the Pakatan Harapan government to table it as soon as possible. And I think in hindsight, lucky for us that YB Said Sadiq was working very hard and pushing for it to be tabled earlier. Before less than a year later, Sheraton move happened, and and not just the political instability, but the fact that we don't even have parliamentary sittings right now would make it very hard for anyone to table new bills. Yeah.
Yes, we must come back to that later. But one last question on UNDI18. In politics, I think there's a tension between voting based on my personal electoral interest, whether I will win or not, whether my constituency wants or not, and also my personal political ideal and conscience. So it's like the conscience and my interest. So interest-based democracy and conscience-based democracy. Do you think for UNDI18 that a growing Malay demographic underlying the youth vote, 5 out of 8 million of the new vote that was supposed to come in, helped tip the scales in support and made it palatable for more conservative Malay parties to eventually support UNDI18?
That's a very big leap to jump to a conclusion to. I don't think that played a role when it comes to lobbying, nor did it really come up in our discussions with politicians on both sides when we engaged them about UNDI18. I think the idea of votes being seen in a racial lens is, of course, already from the beginning on something that I don't really agree with, but I know that many political parties do it that way. And it's very unfortunate because then you reduce people to only their beliefs, because young voters, let's talk about only young voters, right? Young voters are not a monolith. Just because you're a Malay young person, you're a young Malay guy, doesn't mean that you vote like all young Malay guys out there. And also, so many, factors go into why people vote, who do they vote for, and what do they believe in. Because you want to say that, people say that Pakatan Harapan is very progressive, hence why many young people vote for them. But the constituency with the largest amount of youth voters is like Kelantan, somewhere in Kelantan, right? Who voted for PAS, a very conservative party. So you don't. I think it's very dangerous and reductive to to only see from that lens, because then one is that you assume that you form a very big assumption on like young people's decisions and their thoughts. When the matter of fact is that before UNDI18 was passed, nobody even polled below 21-year-olds. Don't even talk about like official election numbers, but when it comes to political surveys and stuff like that, no one would poll below 21 because they were not considered important before. So now with UNDI18, it opens up so much more possibilities. Yes, maybe the numbers of young Malay voters would go up, but that's just because we're in Malaysia. The sheer population of Malays are just much higher than other races. But the question, young Malay nowadays, most of them live in urban areas. A lot of them move to urban areas. And you don't forget that, now we're currently in an unprecedented crisis where many people are very angry with everything that's going on, that it really could swing both ways, right? So we can't just assume that, if I was in Pakatan Harapan, I wouldn't be like, that's a lost cause for us because we'll never win that. It really depends on, I think, young people, more importantly, I think there's actually a study by Merdeka Center that shows young people voted past racial lines the most. So young people today are able to see beyond racial lines. They're able to see beyond surface level racial politics, and actually, in fact, young people are more they're a bit more critical in terms of policy platforms and what especially in economic issues. So I think whichever coalition that's able to promise an improvement in our improvement in employment numbers, improvement in terms of economy, I think they will be able to capture the youth base better.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said. I think that race is something we cannot change. It is something that has been in Malaysian politics for a long time. But when we approach UNDI18, it must be based on political principle, that based on citizenship, and not based on race, which is more narrow. It is something I think is below the surface, but it's not important because I think people vote for different interests. That's why we also build a coalition of support when we try to have a proposal. So this is just some of the thoughts that came across different minds. But I agree with you 100%. An approach based on citizenship, youth empowerment that includes all Malaysians is way forward. Also, if anyone watching today was a big fan of UNDI18 and Qyira Yusri, please like, please share this stream. Also, if you have any comments or questions or relevant and constructive ones, please leave them in the comments section below. Yep. Moving on. Okay, so we all know about the merits of UNDI18. The question is when. Can UNDI18 be implemented when the emergency proclamation ends in August the 1st? What are some of the issues outstanding on UNDI18 implementation?
I think the issues outstanding right now is actually, one of the, the fact that we're launching our lawsuit mean that we are arguing there's no issue outstanding. We think that it can be implemented right now, as long as we get the all clear from the Prime Minister, right? Because ultimately, the Election Commission answers to the executive. I think one of the reasons that they're using, the government is using, they're arguing that, before this, they were arguing that COVID was the reason why they couldn't do it. And then when we went to court, the reason they argued was that you need to amend the constitution on some other parts first before we're able to look into lowering the voting age. A thought that somehow, never raised in the past 2 years. So I think according to our lawyers and also someone like a constitutional expert like Prof. Shah, he mentioned that the constitution is a supreme document, and hence all the other laws would need to be changed to reflect the constitutional amendment. And in fact, if the government chooses to do so, because we're in an emergency, they can use emergency ordinances to do it if they wanted to, right? It's a matter of like whether they want to or not. But I think the fact that because we don't have parliamentary sitting right now, the fact that we can't actually directly question the Prime Minister or the Minister of Law, we have to do it through press statements, we have to do it through our judicial review. I think it's a bigger problem when you look at it, right? Because it's not just UNDI18 as an issue. UNDI18 is not the singular issue that's plaguing young people right now, but there are many other issues that the people deserve to get answers from.
Yes. I think I seen your previous podcast with BFM also. You mentioned that it was passed with all bipartisan votes, this is above and beyond the 2/3 majority needed for a constitutional amendment. And I think it makes a very strong political point that Pakatan Harapan did not have a 2/3 majority; they only had a simple majority. So the fact that it's a super unanimous majority, it's a political statement of view. So they should be. And also, there's, I think, political convention when you pass a law in Parliament with such a strong majority. It must be implemented within reasonable time. So I think you had a judicial review naming the Prime Minister, the Law Minister, and also the Election Commission to implement UNDI18 by July 2021. If not, for 12 reasons, including voter suppression. It's unconstitutional. Yes, but there's one thing you mentioned. I think Section 1(2) of the Constitutional Amendment Act says that the operation date of the UNDI18 that was passed in 2019 can only come in effect after the Yang di-Pertuan Agong makes a notification in the Gazette. So I think that is what you are waiting or trying to get from your judicial review. When is your trial date?
So for Undi Sarawak, the next trial date is 30th of June. While for our hearing in the KL High Court over here, our next case management date is 1st of July. So we'll only be able to find out after that. But we're trying to hopefully get it earlier. Yeah.
looking very forward to it. And in the meantime, are there any progress, or are you just waiting there? So it's not much progress on that.
Well, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I think the amount of work they put in is definitely progress, even though I'm not doing anything. So I am waiting around, of course, for the court dates to come. But our lawyers are working very hard to put together the arguments and also putting a case together. So I think, however, UNDI18 on our own, just because this lawsuit is pending, it doesn't mean that we're not gonna stop doing anything at all. We are running various programs. We have a bunch of stuff coming up. Primarily focused on voter education, youth empowerment, nation building. That's it's still like, business as usual for us. As long as we can keep doing the work that we do, I think that's what we'll be focusing on.
Perfect. So we'll move on to some of the work and campaigns that you guys will do. But before that, one last point, just for the information of the viewers today. I think the two main views upon UNDI18 is that, like, for example, Qyira Yusri said that the Election Act, so 2 acts of parliament and 2 election regulations by the government has to be amended before it can be effective. However, I think Lim Wei Jet was one of your lawyers, I think, Qyira, said that there's no specific legislation, regulation anywhere, whether in delegated, whether in primary statute, whether in state constitutions that say 18 can't vote. And also it is a part of the federal list that 18-year-olds can vote, and it's not in the part of the state level. So this is within the purview of Parliament, so it should be effective because the Act of Parliament was passed in 2019. The last thing here also, 21. I think about 5 or 6 states in Malaysia has amended their laws to allow 21 to lower it to 18, the eligibility to stand for election as state reps. The remaining 5 or 6 states include Penang or Selangor.
Yep.
So I think this also is not related to voting. This is just the eligibility to contest and stand for election. So in the end, I think taking these 2 points of view, I think I agree with your lawsuit in terms of judicial review. That it should be effective, should compel the YDPA to issue a legal notification. So with that, maybe we can
on our lawsuit is not asking YDPA to issue a legal notification. Our
Prime
lawsuit
Minister.
is only it's to compel the Prime Minister. So we only named the Prime Minister, we named the EC, and we named the government of Malaysia. So not the YDPA, because the powers of the executive is actually individual power of the executive. The YDPA only agrees and assents to it, but implementation falls under the executive. So that's why we are using the judiciary route to compel the government and to sort of like trying to see if the court agrees whether delaying the implementation is actually in fact illegal, because they have set set a reasonable expectation for the youth of Malaysia to be to have the right to vote by the time July 2021. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that as well. So for our next question, as education director, what are the programs and campaigns that you run currently at UNDI18?
I think we have about 7 campaigns that we have ongoing right now, and I think we have a range of policy platforms from One Initiative to My Hutan, looking at policies that impact gender, environment, gerrymandering, local democracy, Senate, as well as regional focuses such as Sabah and Sarawak. I think that's the we have like about maybe 200 plus volunteers managing all the different campaigns, and UNDI18 sort of like is just focusing on building a platform for all of them, so that we can have young people, whether they're students or young professionals, to experience what policy making or even advocacy feels like.
Yes, I think last year you organized Parliament Digital 2020. You had 6,000 registrations and for Parliament Digital 2020, and you also show the country that a parliament can be run digitally during an emergency or a pandemic.
Yes, that's right. So we have 6,000 plus registrations of interest. I think when it came to the live streaming, we had almost 500,000 views as well, and it was only streaming on social media. I think clearly, what experiences like that aim to prove is that when given the chance, young people will be able to step up. When given the opportunity, young people will take it. I think I think more than ever, it's young people's time to sort of like prove that they're qualified, they're able. I think the time is now.
Perfect. Besides Parliament Digital and some of the initiatives you mentioned, what are the current initiatives that you're focusing on right now?
I think we're running. We're launching a program called Undi18 coming up soon. So Undi18 aims to sort of like learning from our experiences of running all these different campaigns. We feel like we want to build up towards a nationwide movement that is not just talking about politics only, but it's a safe space for anyone to explore concepts of nation building, concepts of democracy. In order to for them to just have leadership development opportunities. So Undi Negaraku aims to tackle that. Currently, we're working with a committee, a pro tem committee that looks into creating things like core values, creating things like leadership structures and all that. And once we launch it, we're able to hopefully work with a lot more young people across the country.
Is it based on a workshop setting? How will it be run?
No, it'll be based. It'll be a grassroots movement. So every state will have their own sort of like chapters or their own society in a way. Because we've seen the success of Undi Sabah, Undi Sarawak, which are entirely they're basically independent from Undi18, whereby they run their own activities, they run their own programs, they do whatever they want to, and we're just playing more of a supportive role behind the scenes in terms of like funding and opportunities and stuff. Yeah.
Perfect. You also launched the 111 initiative. So you held a very big workshop, I think 252 young girls and women, a workshop to inform them about citizenship rights. Is that a main campaign that you are running currently? Is there any more campaigns that you have targeted at women?
No, so we're taking it, we're taking it slow. So we're just trying to see what do people want to do, what do people want to learn. So the workshop was one of our first attempts at running public engagement. Before that, we've never actually done a large-scale workshop for the public. It was just doing things on social media. But we've seen I guess based on the support and the interest from the first workshop, we're hoping to do more. Yeah.
Perfect. I also see that you had a NGO partnerships. So not just Undi18 internal events, you have partnerships with other organizations like Malaysian Students Global Alliance, Architects of Diversity, government stakeholders, supranational stakeholders like UNICEF. It looks like a very broad coalition of stakeholder engagements. How are these programs run?
Mostly they just support the workshops or event that we do. So either they provide trainers or they are our funders. So that's generally how those collaborations work, in a sense. Yeah.
Is Undi18 run as a think tank, or is it run as a social organization?
No, we're a non-profit organization.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. So how do, for example, Undi18 self-fund like some of the staff and the associates that currently work at Undi18?
Yeah, so we get a lot of project grants. So we're funded by projects. Some of our funders are our supporters and our partners. So that's how usually we do. So sometimes an organization reach out to us saying that they want to do voter education and youth empowerment programs. That's generally how we're supported and are able to stay sustainable.
Okay. There's a question that Undi18 is seen as a liberal and urban organization representing privileged middle-class youth in Malaysia. How can it be more inclusive to rural East Malaysians, women, and other interest groups, even Orang Asli and natives in Malaysia?
I think people who say that don't know the people in Undi18. Because I think we are definitely far from that. I think the fact is that people aren't able to see that a movement is successful without assuming that it's entirely run by privileged people only. The fact that we have Undi Sabah, Undi Sarawak campaigns that are very successful. In fact, the two largest campaigns that Undi18 run shows that there is plenty of East Malaysians involved in our programs. Just recently, Undi Sabah just recruited 20 more volunteers after less than a year of existing, and it's a very big team, and same as Sarawak as well. I myself grew up in Sarawak, so I don't understand when people say that it's all like very privileged Klang Valley kids when most of our teams are not from Klang Valley. We are from outside. We work remotely.
That is refreshing.
Our entire campaigns, volunteer movement, I've never even met more than like 60-70% of them, because it's always been remotely. They work all over Malaysia. They're studying all over Malaysia. When Undi18 was launched, we had kids messaging us on Facebook from Kelantan, Terengganu, Kedah, Perlis, just messaging us saying that, hey, you want to help out, you want to be volunteers. And they've been around since 2017 when the movement started. So I think the fact that Undi18 is growing and we get in more members and stuff like that, I think if diversity and inclusivity is always a sort of like a priority for us, because of that, even our project last year, Parliament Digital, the Best Debater Award went to a guy that's not from Klang Valley, and also a young Sarawakian girl, and I think this just shows that just because I feel like the idea of like being vocal and being assertive is always seen as something that's very like elitist, I think. But the fact is, Malaysians have very capable youth, and if you give them a chance and you provide them an opportunity and you prioritize and make diversity a priority, I think young people will come and the good ones will join your programs.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes, I think that we need participation from Kelantan, from Terengganu, from Sabah and Sarawak, and you have a strong Sarawak representation in Undi18. That is something worthy of applause. I also see that Generation Z is not just millennials. I think those who are born 1996 and after has played a big role, and it's something I've not seen in other organizations. When you had the judicial review application as well, I think you got like 18 youth that are aged 18 to 21 to come forward and then launch and apply for judicial application. So I think that itself was making a very big statement that young people are involved in the court process in Undi18. Do you think it was a natural occurrence that young people would gravitate and join Undi18, or do you think that it was cultivated?
I mean, I don't think
because it's so diverse. There's so many women,
Yeah.
and so many.
I don't think it's natural, but I think it is the result of 5 years of campaigning and advocacy and the hard work of my team in terms of like making sure that we're always inclusive and we're always prioritizing diverse perspectives. I don't think I think if you want an ideal outcome that is like a diverse set of like representatives and all that, you have to put in the work to make sure that it's inclusive and make sure that your programs are accessible, to make sure that everything is you reduce as much barriers as possible for people to participate in your programs, and then you're able to attract a wide range of young people. Yeah.
Definitely. I think we are moving towards the heart of today's topic. So Undi18 and the youth advocacy in Malaysia. So like lessons, key takeaways. Based on your experiences, do you have any advice for young Malaysians who want to be like you and organize or overcome challenges to set up their own social youth advocacy organization?
Yeah, I think it's. I think many people are always very afraid, or they're very concerned about like whether it's like advocacy is something that it's dangerous or not dangerous and stuff like that. So I think that's always a fear that people have. But I think, and I'm not saying it's not dangerous, but I do think that people need to, look into what is available around them, what resources, what capacity they have, and then work towards finding ways to explore and be a part of a cause you care about. So for example, if you care about the environment, you have to join a political party. Not necessarily, right? You can work in an NGO, you can support an NGO, and sometimes, especially if you're privileged, the best way to help is to donating your money. Someone working in an NGO, the best way to help really is that you donate money to the NGO so that they can continue to work, they can afford to stay sustainable, they can afford to pay their staff members with dignified wages and all that. So they don't have to exploit people to get causes across. So I think these are just many ways for people to consider when it comes to like speaking up about issues they care about and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for sharing that part. Just to recap some of the campaigns that you run. So you have One initiative that's helping build towards 50% women representation in Parliament. 111. You have My Hutan, a youth campaign to institutionalize financing for forest conservation in Malaysia. You have Tenaga Belia, which is a platform for youth participation in energy and electricity policy in the country. You have Senate 18, lowering the Senate eligibility age of office from 30 to 18. You have Undi Sabah, a youth campaign to instill and empower Sabahan youth in democracy. You have Undi Saksama. I think this is regarding gerrymandering. So the principle of equal boundaries between different places. And then Undi Sarawak. So here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 campaigns. How do you organize and manage your time, and among how many associates do you have at UNDI18 to run concurrent programs among so broad but very important topics?
Yeah, I think how do I manage my time? I think I don't know. I use Google Calendar, I guess. I'm just being aware of like my commitments and stuff like that. I think because it's my full-time job now, it's not something that is very challenging to do. I think the fact that I have a very good team as well. So we have a team of 10 people working at UNDI18 full time. Everyone manages different areas, different campaigns, different projects. So I think if we invest and treat our team members right, they'll stay on and they'll want to work with you. And I think that's it's there's no secret trick or hack to it. It's really about working hard and also appreciating your teammates. To ensure that they also enjoy working with you.
Do you have any particular challenges that you remember throughout your journey in implementing any of these programs? Any big challenges that you remember?
I think a challenge, I guess, will always be things like maybe motivation. Because I think before 2020, we never, we don't have like a we didn't do full time, we didn't do UNDI18 full time. So, we had to balance studies and work to manage UNDI18. So I think that's one of the ways, that was one of the, I guess you have dips in motivation sometimes. So it's really about just getting up from that.
Yes. I see that you previously, or you currently run a campaign with The Body Shop. So that's a corporate organization. How do we get large corporate or private sector companies in Malaysia to be more involved in local issues?
I think it's really about, I don't know, like being creative. I don't think we didn't intentionally seek out Body Shop, or Body Shop reached out to us. I think it's important to find a partner that shares similar values as you are, as who you are. And I think Body Shop has run a campaign with to campaign against child marriage before. So I think clearly they are very they issues such as girls and women's rights are very, very important for them. So I think it's only natural that they also support a campaign like UNDI18.
Very good. Thank you so much. I think previously in one of the interviews you mentioned only 6% of women applied for Parliament Digital. How is that the same case for Parliament Dewan Muda Malaysia today?
So no. So I think Dewan Muda Malaysia, we just showed our demographics. We actually have about almost 50%, 40% female applications. Wow. So we're in the middle of finalizing our final representatives now. So I hope to at least really see that I want to reveal all our representatives soon. But I think I guess we've made a lot of effort in ensuring that we market to young girls and young women. So that's something that we're focusing on.
Yes, I think it's a very big milestone from 6% in Parliament to 40% currently. Does that apply as well for Orang Asli or East Malaysia?
I don't have the full numbers right now. I don't really remember, but I do remember there's a significant amount of Orang Asli as well. And of course, Sabah Sarawak will always be a lot because they apply for Sabah Sarawakian seats. So it's not like it's I think when you plan programs like this, just being aware of everyone's interests and making sure that the platform includes them. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. as well for Dewan Muda Malaysia, will it be the same as Parliament Digital? Because this one is a 2-year program that includes workshop. So I see that it's going towards annual kind of thing, and it's going to be a more structured and sustainable program. And is that the case?
I think it's, I mean, yes, definitely. So it's not like Parliament Digital, whereby it's like a 1 weekend program. It's 2 years. So the participants will be allocated to different like mock cabinet, mock ministries. They'll be working on white papers. They'll be working on different projects and stuff. Which is significantly different, because we don't want to just give people a platform to debate, but we want them to learn as well. Yeah.
How can civil society in Malaysia organize more effectively? Based on all your experiences with Parliament Digital, 111 Initiative, Undi Saksama, Undi Sarawak, and Undi Sabah, what do you think civil society in Malaysia are lacking currently to improve or lessons that can learn from UNDI18?
I feel like UNDI18 is learning a lot from civil society at the moment. We are very new in the scene. We get inspired by groups like Bersih, groups like, even society, civil society, think tanks like Ideas, all that, which are very vocal about pushing for, a better parliament, better democracy. So that's the stuff that we're working on, and I think we're inspired by. So I feel like. I think for young people who's interested to organize and who's interested to join advocacy, I think one thing to remember is that what is the end goal that you're doing? I think when you want to launch an organization or a youth group or whatever, I think you need to ask yourself whether is this something you see yourself working on 5 years from now? Are you willing to do it 10 years from now on? Are you just doing this to pass the time as a student? And even if that is true, that's fine. Just being sort of like aware and managing expectations, I think is very, very important. Yeah.
Yep. So I think, like you mentioned just now, we have a lot of civil society organizations in Malaysia, including Bersih, Coalition for Free and Fair Elections, which was formed in 2005 by 5 political parties. We also have Hakam, I think it's Hakam, and Swaram. So they were formed in 1987 and 1988. So they were human rights organizations, actually the first in Malaysia. I mean, they are still active today, especially. That were formed since Operasi Lalang and the judicial crisis in the late 80s. Where do you see UNDI18 now? Like how Swaram and Hakam are 40 years later. Where do you see UNDI18 in 40 years? Will it be still around the voter education?
I hope that we won't be around in like 4 more years or the next general election, because I don't think there is a purpose to exist beyond that, because UNDI18 would have been passed. We'll be operating in a different context. I think, personally, I would be interested to do advocacy and work with children and young women especially. But, I don't think in that context, UNDI18 is the platform anymore. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I can also see that you are branching out into a few areas. So I was thinking maybe UNDI18 will transition from voter education to women rights, or maybe
it's possible, but I don't think that's a transition from UNDI18 to that area. But it's more like what's after UNDI18. It's not like UNDI18 10 years from now. Yeah.
Yep. As you mentioned just now, I think you have a full-time job now at UNDI18. Previously, you were doing part-time. How do you balance your time for personal life, for friends, and working at UNDI18 currently? Do you have time for hobbies?
Now in the MCO, everything is free. You have a lot more time. But I think before this, UNDI18, when I was working full-time in a different job, UNDI18 was my passion. So working on UNDI18 was sort of like my hobby or my passion, because I find joy from doing it. So I think, I'm able to do it full-time now. So I if you like what you do, then I don't think it's very difficult to do, I guess.
Yep. So since Sheraton move has happened, many Malaysians are worried about democratic reversal, the use of the Sedition Act and Communications and Multimedia Act against online protests or street protests in Malaysia, including to intimidate youth activists. Like I think UNDI18 had a Tamat Darurat, had an Enam Tuntutan, and then a lot of the organizers, including Tharma, was called up to the police. Are you worried?
Not really, because I think I don't know. I feel like we have a very good support system and community that helps us out. So I don't think this is something that that's been an issue with us. So I feel like as long as we have a very good support system, it shouldn't be very difficult, lah. Yeah.
Yep. Because I think Aiman Hakim, he made a tweet previously, and then he made a tweet previously about the royal family and was called up the police to be charged or to be investigated for sedition. Is Wadi Modi as well, PKR Sarawak, who was called up the police to investigate for and Facebook live stream for sedition as well, over royal comments. Is this not a trend that the government has become more intimidating to youth activists?
I think those instances that you mentioned, they were directly talking about a certain figure, not the government, so to say. So I think it's very difficult to compare with like other sectors of advocacy, because unfortunately we do have very restrictive laws when in regards to something like the monarchy, for example. So it's very difficult to compare. So I think I think it's something that it's not something the government is doing recently. In fact, the government will always do this to anyone that that says something seditious. So I don't think it's like along the same length. Yeah.
Yep. I think that in 2015 though, the government I think they removed criticism of government in particular as an offense in that part. But the other things like creating hatred, ill will, racial, religious feelings, those still apply for this sedition. Yeah. Oh, I agree with you on this point as well. Peaceful Assembly Act. Apparently in Malaysia, you have to make a 5-day notice before you can have a peaceful assembly.
And also, you don't have to apply a permit. You just have to inform.
No permit, just an information, and you can't be below 21.
That one I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but I think Malaysia is has improved. I think PM Najib previously removed the particular section for police permit in the Police Act. So I think in Singapore you still need a police permit. In Malaysia, you don't have a police permit. It's just a notification, as you said.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very good. I think yes. Do you have any future plans? Do you have any future plans for yourself? Moving on, as you said, Undi18 might not be the best vehicle after 4 years if it's if voter education, voting rights has been implemented. Do you plan to join politics? What is your best vehicle in the future? Or even personally, do you have any plans or cross your mind to stay in Malaysia or move abroad?
I don't know. I don't think I don't know. I don't think that far ahead. So I at the moment all I see in the future is me working Undi18. And then I think I'll see how it goes as it goes. I think the fact that we're living in a pandemic now means that everything is unpredictable. So I don't know, but I definitely don't have plans to move abroad anytime soon. I just feel like I'm very happy where I am, and I think I want to keep doing the work that I do for now.
Yes, I think you have opened up a space for young people to organize around in terms of creating new organizations that are linked to Undi18, supported by Undi18 and supporting Undi18. So there's a network of youth organizations in Malaysia that's attributed to Undi18. So I think you've done a very remarkable job, and I think Malaysia will be at pain if you ever decide to.
Well, I think there are many really awesome young people that will keep working on Undi18 in Malaysia no matter what happens, lah. Yeah.
Okay. I think back to the heart, and I think we're moving towards the later part of the talk today. So if anyone has any comments or questions for Qyira and Undi18 about current and future plans, or about tips or takeaways on running a civil organization in Malaysia, please leave them in the comment section below. So the last or second last question we want to talk about is how can civil society organize effectively? I see the flow chart on your Undi18 page is to kickstart assembling a winning coalition. Secondly, to engaging the grassroots rakyat to win public opinion. Thirdly, to lobby your politicians and playing the game of leverage. And then communication. So that's a digital campaign, building social media momentum.
Yeah, I think what we share on our website is essentially what we've experienced so far. I wouldn't say that we are an expert in it, but I think those are just some of the stuff that we've realized that's been very helpful and very beneficial for the work that we do. Yeah. Sorry, I just want to say that my battery is at like 5%, and my charger is like in a different
Yes,
room. So if it dies,
yes.
I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries, Qyira. We're already always at the end already. Yep. I would like to conclude with everything that Qyira has mentioned today about Undi18. I personally like the fact that it started with student movement in 2016, supported by Malaysian Student Global Alliance, and it grew into a national civil rights organization today. Started with a very remarkable digital campaign, hashtag Undi18, spread the word. They send letters to all their MPs on both sides of the spectrum. So building a coalition, bipartisan coalition, engaging NGOs, stakeholders, and engaging rakyat, engaging people like us having a conversation today with Qyira. I think all these are key to building support for Undi18. And I think that's contributed to Qyira's success in this respect. Qyira, do you have any final parting words before we move to Q&A? For your advice for anyone who was watching. Oh, wow. Yep. I think with that, we will conclude tonight's session with a very informative dialogue with Qyira Yusri, co-founder and education director of Undi18. If anyone still has any questions for Qyira, please leave them in the comment section below. I will collect them personally and email them on your behalf. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope everyone had a good time. See everyone. Take care and stay safe.